A blank canvas is intimidating. It's nothing and everything at once. Some see endless possibilities. Others see the weight of expectations. David, a 35-year-old accountant, saw only failure. For years, he had convinced himself that creativity was for others: painters, musicians, dreamers. He was a man of numbers, not colors. But life has a way of pushing us toward the very things we resist. It all started with an old wooden box. David found it while cleaning out his late grandmother's attic. Inside, nestled between yellowed papers and faded photographs, were tubes of paint, brittle brushes, and a half-finished painting. It was a landscape rolling green hills under a golden sky. It looked unfinished, as if waiting for one last touch. His grandmother had been a painter, but she never talked much about it. She had spent most of her life working as a tailor, stitching clothes instead of painting sunsets. David never asked why. That night, he set the box on his kitchen table and stared at it. Something inside him stirred a quiet whisper in the back of his mind. He dipped a brush into a deep blue and hesitantly dragged it across a fresh canvas. It was awful. Uneven strokes, muddy colors, a mess of mistakes. He laughed, then he sighed, then, for reasons he couldn't explain, he kept going. For the next few weeks, he painted in secret. Every night, after work, he sat with his brushes and colors, trying to make sense of the chaos. At first, every attempt felt like proof that he had no talent. But over time, something changed. He began to enjoy the process. The smell of the paint, the smooth glide of the brush, the way colors mixed and danced together. He stopped worrying about whether his work was good and simply let himself create. Then came the accident. One evening, while hurrying to clean up his latest painting, David tripped. The canvas flew out of his hands, crashing into the still wet paints. A swirl of reds, blues, and yellows smeared across the surface. He groaned. All that effort, ruined. But when he looked again, something unexpected happened. The random smudges had formed a breathtaking pattern of fiery sunset, bleeding into an ocean of deep blue. It was unintentional, imperfect, and yet, it was beautiful. David realized something in that moment. He had spent his whole life trying to control things, trying to get every detail right. But the best parts, the real magic, happened in the accidents. Life wasn't about precision. It wasn't about following rigid plans. It was about embracing the unexpected, letting mistakes become part of the masterpiece. He thought about his grandmother. Maybe she had put away her paints not because she lacked talent, but because life had forced her to. Maybe she had been waiting for someone to finish what she started. David no longer saw himself as just an accountant. He was an artist, too. Not because he painted well, but because he painted at all. A blank canvas isn't something to fear. It's an invitation. Not every stroke will be perfect. Some colors will bleed together in ways you don't expect. But if you keep going, if you embrace the process instead of fearing failure, you might just create something incredible. David hung his accidental masterpiece in his living room. It wasn't perfect, but it was his. And for the first time in his life, that was enough.